Welcome back to On My Traveling, guys. My name is Raul, and today we are visiting the Daytona International Speedway Rolex 24. This guy is Benji. This is
Jesus. Elias.
And we are today talking about everything to do with the Rolex 24. But before we get started, we need to make sure Benji goes back in his cage. So get out of here, man.
Get out of here, man.
All right, get ready. This is an exciting 2 days of action, jam-packed for the Rolex 24. You guys are in for a treat. Before the event even got started, we got invited by the Patrons Club and the Jacksonville Sports Car Museum. So thank you guys. Shout out to the Sports Car Museum for making this happen. We got together with about 40 different members from the Patrons Club and we rallied down south to Daytona. Dude, the day has finally arrived. We are headed to the Daytona Rolex 24 with our entire car group, the Patrons Club. We have Lamborghinis, Shelbys, Porsches 911s, Aston Martins, you name it. We are ready. We have 40 people deep in this. And of course, first thing you gotta do before you head out anywhere is you gotta fill up some gas. So here we are, look at this. All right, here we are on the way down to Daytona from Jacksonville. And I got my beautiful girlfriend, Karen, right next to me. So tell me, what are you the most excited about today?
The entire experience is our first time going, so I'm excited to be there. The cars, we get to be...
Yeah, we have garage and pit access. So we'll literally be right there walking around, seeing the cars up close and personal with us.
That's what I'm most excited about, being right there.
For a good 1 hour rally, but overall it was an awesome experience to meet and hang out with these guys. But enough about all that, let's get into the Rolex 24.
Let's go.
Glasses. Oh yeah? Look at that. Yeah, yours a little bit more yellow. Hi. Thank you. The wristbands. Woo. It's official. Oh yeah, it was a flyover. I was insane. You guys heard that, right? Let's go. 140. Let's
Look
go.
at this. This is amazing.
Hey,
Amazing experience.
there they are. There they are.
So before everything, I need to say thank you to Raul and for his Patron Club that invited us to go to Daytona. It was an amazing experience, and yeah, thank you so much, Raul.
Anytime, man.
Fantastic.
You're welcome.
Man.
Glad
Thank
you
you.
enjoyed it.
And I also need to say thanks to Eli because he borrowed me like his GoPro. Mine broke during the day, so it was perfect.
Before we get on to the race and who won, here are some basic things you need to know. We left Jacksonville at 8:30 in the morning. We got to Daytona by 9:30 a.m. It was a mission to park and to get inside. By the time we found our parking, we had to walk into the speedway and then get a tram. All this we didn't even know about, so we had to ask people about that, and that was a full hour process. Once we got into the actual infield passes, because we had infield passes, it was another like 30 minutes to even find out where we need to be situated at. So highly recommend get there early, otherwise you're gonna miss a lot of activities. It's a process, and they have so many things for the fans as it is. You can actually walk on the track. They have driver introductions at 11:25 a.m. We saw some of that, but like I said, we were kind of just rushed. So I highly recommend, at least for day number one, get there early as you can, because you want to make sure you maximize the fan experience, which is really the best part about the Rolex 24. Unlike NASCAR, unlike Formula One, you really don't have that fan-to-fan interaction. In this case, you could actually walk on the track, which makes this experience next level, in my opinion. Another cool thing about this race is the camera gear. Tell me more. I mean, you're the expert in this.
Yeah. Well, even without a media pass, you can bring in big lenses, your own camera gear, and take whatever photos you want. You have very good access to get every single shot you need. So it's a pretty unique thing. Usually you're at the gate, you're not allowed to bring in a lens over a certain size. Here, there's no limit, as you can see in the videos that Jesus showed. Like, he has a lens that's the size of his leg, and there's no precautions for that.
What size was that lens?
400 millimeter 2.8.
400 millimeters. So one of the cool things about this is that I was doing a lot of research before this event, and the height on the fences are about 6 foot tall. So I found out that you could actually bring a step stool, and that's what I brought in. This guy was using it
the whole time. If you don't have the step tool, like, you can still do good shots if you have like a big lens, because the fence will be blurry. But if without it, like, it will be really hard to get. Like,
so definitely the little step stool, if you could get one, I got one on Amazon for $10 the day before, came in clutch. All right, so now let's talk about pricing. General admission was $130 for the 2 day pass, which is not bad if you think about it. 2 days, $130. However, what we ended up doing was we ended up going for like the suite access, and we had a premier parking. So we had 2 infield parking. We had 40 spots for the outside parking, which was the part that took an hour to get in. The 2 passes for the infield parking were literally right behind our tent, but we had catered lunch and also cater breakfast both days. The thing is that those passes are not cheap. They costed around an average about $250 a person, but these guys had to get a group sale. So they spent over $11,500 to be able to have this experience. So it could be pretty pricey, but if you do the math, when you have 40 people, it's actually not that bad for a full 2-day experience with food, all access, and we had pit row and garage access as well, which, I mean, you guys were definitely maximizing the garage and the pit access. Tell me more about that.
So let's talk about the fan experience. Like for me, it was amazing that we can step into the track and like see the cars very close and see like the teams, everyone, like Ferrari team, BMW, Aston Martin, everyone was there, and like we have a really close experience.
Yeah, and with those brands, we got to sit inside replica race cars right beside those brands outside. We also got to go on the track and walk alongside the cars before the race. Jesus has some awesome footage.
Yeah, it's incredible how we can see like beforehand the car that is gonna race for 24 hours.
So we saw the Ferrari, we saw the Lamborghini. This year was the first year that the Aston Martin Valkyrie came out, which is a V12 naturally aspirated. So that was actually the car of the show this year. It didn't win, but ultimately, like you said, we have that full fan experience that we could actually walk up, take pictures with the cars. Overall, it was an awesome experience. At least as a fan, it was awesome. So there are really two very important time slots that you need to know. 11:25 is when the driver introductions happen. So all the cars, all the drivers start coming in and they park their cars for the fan experience that we talked about just now. And then the most important part is the Rolex 24 starts at 1:40 p.m., meaning you have 24 hours from then. So it ends at Sunday at 1:40 p.m. It goes on for 24 hours.
Raul, tell me more about this race, how it works, important things about it.
Yeah, everybody thinks it's one driver racing for 24 hours, but every team has 3 or 4 drivers, depending on the team. There are a total of 12 different manufacturers with 61 cars entered in this year's race with over 228 drivers. So every team has a difference between 3 or 4 drivers, but ultimately it's a long race. So one person cannot do all 24 hours. Obviously you got to take a break. The course is about 3.56 miles.
like a 5K.
Pretty much like a 5K. But so it's not that long of a course, but it's a pretty long course as it is. And the winner this year for 3 years in a row is a Porsche Penske Motorsports team for 3 years in a row. So 2 more important times that you need to know is going to be sunset and the nighttime fireworks shots. So sunset obviously is going to be around 5:30 and the nighttime fireworks is going to be at 10 p.m. So definitely mark those on your calendar. You don't want to miss those. You're going to get the best iconic pictures and videos at those 2 time slots.
It's also important to say, like, don't go exact at the time. No, don't go to sunset at 5:30. Go like 30 minutes before, because everyone can bring a camera. So everyone is gonna look for the spot for the photos at a time. Go before, get your spot, and you'll get sweet photos right there.
As you can see, it's at golden hour, 5:30. So everybody's lining up to the fence to get some nice shots right before it gets dark. And this is the spot we're gonna be at for 10 o'clock for the fireworks. We can see the Ferris wheel from here, the cars, and the fireworks all going out at 10 o'clock. So this is a great spot to be at right here.
Well, it's a really busy area and some of those sunset like track shots. However, the track is 3.5 miles long, so you have a lot of space in the interior where you can also look for a unique angle. They even have a Ferris wheel you can go on top of and try to get a shot, which I don't think we tried, but Jesus was locked in and ready at sunset for a good angle. Yeah, the problem with this year's Ferris wheel shots of fireworks is that it was super foggy.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like the foggiest.
By night was foggy. Like, it was one of the longest fogs that ever happened before, so 7 hours of fog. Right.
Well, they were waving the yellow flag for caution just in case, because even the drivers couldn't see too far ahead in some sections.
Yeah, but while you guys were there, I was there, so I still got some cool pictures. I mean, not as professional as your cameras, but cool enough, and I did some slow motion shots. But definitely, I personally think, while yes, it's true, the track is 3.5 miles long.
Yeah, speaking of the big interior they have there, you have tons of opportunities to go get different kinds of food and drinks, and they have a lot of different brands like inside that area where you can not quite test drive, you can sit inside simulators, you can go into the exact replicas of the race cars, you can win free stuff, free merch.
But before we get to the food and merch, I gotta make sure these guys subscribe. So do me a favor, if you're enjoying this video, hit like and subscribe. Yeah, I mean, the fan experience was definitely awesome. The food at our tent where we had our catered event, for the catered food, it wasn't terrible, but the food for the fans where you actually had like food vendors and you buy the food yourself, which was not cheap, by the way, it was actually pretty good. So the pizza was okay, it wasn't bad. I had Philly cheesesteaks. We also had mini donuts and churros. So I think one of my friends had lemonade. My girlfriend had a coffee. So overall, like, there was a lot of different options. And for merchandise, in that center area, you had the Rolex, official Rolex 24 merchandise. So I got a cool hat, which I'm not wearing now, but I'll show it to you now. So here it is. But if you want some team racing gear, you have to find them. So do your homework before you get to the race because all the teams are scattered everywhere. I think Porsche was right by the Ferris wheel, so it was a pretty long walk from where we were at. But overall, it was an awesome experience for the fans and for the food. Like I said, lots of options, so just bring your wallet because it's not cheap. All right, so let's talk about capping off the race, the winner. I wasn't there for day number 2. I left a little bit early, but you guys were there, so why don't you tell me more about that?
So what about second day? I mean, I thought when they crossed the finish line, it would be like fireworks or something crazy happening. It didn't happen, nothing at all. It was like just clapping, everyone, woo, and I was like, okay. But we were close to the winner spot.
With our access, and because we got there a little earlier, about 30 minutes before the race finished, we were able to get a really nice spot right there where they do the champagne bottles, where they do the big confetti. We had a really cool opportunity.
They also brought the car from Porsche that won. They brought it there. Everyone stand up on a car. They were from Brazil, the drivers. So it was like some family over there. It was a pretty nice experience too.
So they have a tradition, and I don't know if they're gonna continue with this Porsche that won because they're probably gonna still race it. But whenever a car wins, all right, there was a Chevy that won one of the years, and so in the beginning they were doing tours about it, and they had it parked in the lawn. That Chevy won the Le Mans in 2023. The tradition is they don't wash the car. They leave it there, and then that car becomes a tour car. So that car tours all over the country, every different race. So that car hadn't been washed in over 2-3 years because it was a winner. They want to keep the original dirt, everything on that. So it's pretty cool too. So I wonder if they're going to do that for this Porsche.
Guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel.
It's my YouTube channel, but that's fine.
Okay, so this is not a paint job, okay? Come closer. Come closer here. See? This is actual dirt, you know. This car actually won Le Mans 2023.
Then normally when you win a race, you never wash a car again. You tour and you go to different spots and you just pretty much leave it how it was for the race, so it's dirty. So 2023 has not been washed yet.
That's true. That's right.
Dan, you're good at YouTube, man. You should do this more often.
Yeah. I should start my own YouTube channel.
Yeah, right.
Instead of helping you.
Okay.
You're driving for 24 hours to the night, you're gonna get a dirty car.
Yeah, the cars got pretty dirty. I wasn't expecting it at all. I didn't thought about it, but we see the cars when they finish, and it was like pretty dirty.
Yeah, with dirty cars and with lots of like celebration happening, the winners got a really cool thing. You drive for 24 hours. I mean, you got to get something for that. And so all the winners, so all 3 to 4 drivers that are racing in that winning car, they get a custom engraved, very coveted Rolex watch, Daytona watch. But being there for the very finale, we saw a lot of the crowd all start to gather and celebrate and cheer them on. So you're probably wondering, like, if you can park inside the track, and if you're trying to get to your, or if you parked outside, what's the traffic like getting out? I think if you parked inside, it was a bit of a holdup if you wait to the very end. The Daytona Beach Police Force does a really good job about commanding traffic outside as well. So you're really not even stopped outside for a very long time either.
Well, one of the things is also they were very lenient because the night before, like you said, we had dinner reservations at 6:45 p.m. We left at 6, after sunset, and one of our friends had a pickup truck, so we actually rode on the bed of the pickup truck, and we were riding back there, and nobody said anything. We were just driving to the restaurant, which was actually a fun experience too, in my opinion.
Is anyone cold?
You're like choking me. I'm actually
You
drive 8 to got a horse.
360 camera.
Nevertheless, ultimately, the Rolex 24, in my opinion, from a scale of 1 to 10, what do you give it?
I mean, for me, it was my first time in a racing thing. I can say it's like a 9 or a 10, yeah.
Okay. All right. What about you, Eli?
I'm not a car enthusiast, but I loved all the free stuff, and I loved like just being there in the first place. I give it a solid 7.
He loves all the free stuff, meaning the free tickets.
I really enjoyed the tickets.
And free food.
And free food, right? So you give it a 10, you give it a solid 7. Yeah. I don't know what's so solid about a 7, but all right.
For someone who's not big into cars, it's a race all about cars for 24 hours. I think a 7's a pretty good thing.
I agree. So I will give it the experience overall. I want to say it's a 9, but I was going to say it's an 8.5. And the only reason why I'm giving it an 8.5 is because once you get there, day number 1, it was so busy, and they only had one tram system to get you to the same spot. Yeah. Mind you, they have multiple trams going on, but I just felt that the process just took too long to get into the infield. And once you got to the infield, you still had to figure out where you had to go. They didn't give you any maps or anything, or give you any instructions. So we were figuring out on the fly.
They need to put like more signalization around.
Because of that, I give it an 8.5. had I not had that issue with like getting in, I think I would have given it a solid 9 for sure, because the overall experience of Rolex 24 was awesome. Next year I definitely want to stay there for the finishing line, because I think that was probably the coolest part.
Yeah.
You know, so but yeah, there you go guys. Rolex 24 wraps up here in 2026 for the 64th running of the Rolex 24. So once again, thank you guys for joining us today, and we'll see you guys on the next video.